LinkedIn, LinkedIn, LinkedIn. We asked and you listened. And in today's video, I want to go through 12 of the biggest LinkedIn ad updates from the past 12 months, which are really going to make our lives as B2B marketers so much better. And I think for context, I've never seen an ad platform do so many updates and ship so many new features in a 12-month period. So I think it's super exciting time for LinkedIn and LinkedIn advertisers right now, and super impressed by the product team and the roadmap. And really can't wait to see what they come up with this year. But for right now, let's jump into the first update, which I think is super important for you guys to know, which is companies, or the company tab. If we go into in this case, one of our test accounts, and you click on plan and go on to companies, what you can now see, which you couldn't see before, is everything from company level engagements. You can see here in this account, we have 10 or just shy of 10,000 companies, the engagement level, which is pretty standard. Then also you can see the organic impressions these companies have been seeing, as well as the paid impression, clicks, ad engagements, and all these filters down here. So you can segment by campaigns that they've been seeing. You can segment by, firmographics, whatever it may be, you can go through and have a look within there. And it's super cool to see this. And if you are going off from an ABM perspective, or if you just want to sense check the companies that you're getting in front of, both organically and paid, to join your efforts together, it's so handy. It's also a really good way of you being able to go and do all your negative lists from companies you don't want to target and go and sense check them within the platform. Previously, you had to tap into the likes of LinkedIn Ads API and pull it into an external database or Google Sheet to go and see this type of data, whereas now we're seeing more and more of it actually natively within the platform. And I think this really shows how much LinkedIn is listening, because this is stuff we've been requesting within the platform for years. So as an update, I'd say this one is 10 out of 10. Next one, moving on to something which is great, but I'd say not at the same caliber, and I'll go through and grade them all out of 10 as I go through to show you how excited I am out of 10. Next one is something called dwell time. So if you go on to engagement into your reports and you go across, you'll be able to see average dwell time. Now, this is cool because I think it's nice to have like an intermediary metric between, I guess, clicks and just someone being served an ad, or like a view of someone seeing the ad potentially. So if you are promoting thought leadership ads, which is something I'll get onto in a minute, but you can see, or just static ads, you can see how long someone's been sort of hanging around and actually viewing the content. It's a nice way to measure that and benchmark that against different campaigns or creative that you've been running in a similar format. Next one is, and out of 10, I'd probably give this one about a 6 out of 10. The next one is if you go onto delivery and go onto audience penetration. Now, this one's cool, and it kind of shows you and it calculates the percentage of an audience reached in a single campaign divided by the audience size. But as audience size is kind of like a finger in the sky number, rough rounded number, it's not going to be super accurate. So it's kind of roughly how many accounts within your whole TAM or target audience market within LinkedIn you're going after have you reached. And obviously that's then coupled by frequency. So if you've got loads more impressions, it's because people are seeing it more than once, and how, frequency is ultimately how many times it gets in front of someone over a given time period. So it's a useful metric, and you could have worked it out previously, but it's just quite nice for it to be there natively within the account. Typically from a first touch or a cold audience under 100,000 people, say, I don't really see it go over 50%, but I kind of say you want to be around that 50% mark. If you go much bigger, we found that audience penetration is much lower, so you actually start reaching less of the audience and start recycling, and the frequency goes up more and more on your budget. So you kind of want to look into that, and also kind of gives you a few ideas of whether your budget's big enough or whether it's too small for the audience size, yada yada, over a month period. When you look to then bring it into sort of like, say, remarketing audiences, you're obviously going to have a much higher audience penetration, because all those people are active on LinkedIn. They're not just like dormant accounts that you're never going to get impressions from. So people have engaged. So it's probably going to be more like 60 to 80% of remarketing if you do sort of isolated remarketing audiences. So out of 10, I'd say 5 out of 10, because you probably could have worked out from a custom column, but really nice for it to be brought in to the interface itself. The next one is connected TV. Now, connected TV I think is really cool. Probably should clarify this is actually only available in the US at the moment. I've tagged LinkedIn once or twice on LinkedIn to ask them for it in the UK and across Europe, but it's not there yet, so hasn't worked. So when I say pushing, I mean in the lightest sense possible. But if we go on connected TV, if you want to go and say create a campaign, and you has to be the brand awareness, and I've created a whole video around it which I'll link below. But if you go on brand awareness, go next, and then Classic. It's actually a very new UI we've got here. And for example, if we click on brand awareness, we can go and create connected TV campaigns. And in the video I've created, it shows you where you can kind of manage the inventory, where everything shows up. So super exciting. We can start getting in front of people whilst they're watching their favorite TV programs late at night. But be good to get day passing introduced now, so we can not target people that are watching daytime TV, because they're either on holiday and they don't want to be advertised to, probably, or unemployed. So maybe not got the best buying power. So great in here, but again, you can't do it in the EMEA at the moment. I'd say this is a solid, what did I mark this down at? 6 out of 10. If it was in the UK as well, I'd give it 7 or an 8. So there we go. Moving on to the next one is EU-based InMail ads. So again, previously when you create, say, an InMail ad, you go down and you can create a conversation ad, for example. Previously, that was only available in the UK, as it's not part of the European Union, or the US. Every company within the European Union, you couldn't send InMail ads to, and it's quite nice as part of like the retargeting mix, and it's a nice, I guess, addition to the inventory which you have within LinkedIn ads, which is a bit annoying because we manage a lot of European-wide or European Union accounts. This is being reintroduced back in, so really excited to launch these back in to the campaigns there. Next, we have newsletter ads, and this is quite a cool update. Going back to the previous one, I'd probably rate the UK-based InMail ads as about an 8 out of 10. Exciting one for people who manage European accounts. Now, moving on to the next one, we got newsletter ads and articles. So this is pretty much when you can go in and you can go and promote your newsletter or your article directly to an audience, which is quite good. I think LinkedIn are quite on the ball when it comes to people in the B2B space, are really hopping on the newsletter bandwagon from individual creators, and LinkedIn, just like their sort of events, which I'll get onto, and their sort of groups have kind of been fallen by the wayside a little bit. So I think with their like organic push, they want to start ranking in the search engines. They want people to start using it for email newsletters a bit more. They're allowing you to promote your newsletter and your articles to people within LinkedIn, which is quite cool. Previously, you could kind of do it in the single image ad format, but now if you go onto LinkedIn and go to a different format, without saving, let's go and create a campaign. You can go on to, say, like the engagement metric. I think it's engagement and lead gen. You can go and look at the supportive objectives down here. Go to classic. And you can go and select the article and newsletter function or the format, and be able to start promoting it in there. If you have a newsletter, it's potentially quite nice to be able to not then have to use a third-party platform or email platform, and just do it where your audience are already, and start adding it to your remarketing or your first touch point mix. Next, we want to go and look at, in a similar vein, out of 10 actually first before I move on, looking at around a 7 out of 10, quite like that. But one I think that's 8 out of 10 is the event ads. So live event ads are super cool. The thing I like about event ads is you can kind of, obviously live events are great, but you can promote them before the event. So you've got 8 days to sign up to this event. You can do it during the event and maybe allocate a bit more, and then you can do it post event. And typically when I see a live event, I think it's a bit more, feels like it's going to be customized to the time. It's, not potentially an evergreen event. It's something which is like reactive to what's going on. So it could be updates and news and everything else. So I think it's something that if it's part of your mix, it's going to be an 8 out of 10 advancement, which is really, really cool. Okay, the next one is thought leadership ads, which came out, I think, not last year, but the year before. But then you could only be promoted. And for those of you who don't know, a thought leadership ad is when you get your personal content promoted using company LinkedIn ad accounts. You promote your personal versus being what it needs to be done from a company page. But what they've introduced recently in the last 12 months is you being able to promote your content even if you're not part of the company whose ad account it is. So for example, if we go in Supermetrics and look at API, here's a post that I wrote about wasting your LinkedIn ads budget with a little API connector using ChatGPT and sort of like a script to pull them two together. Feel free to go and look at it. I can link it below. But it says, you can see here promoted by Supermetrics with my name here. And ultimately, previously, you'd have to actually be part of that company for you to be promoted. Whereas now they're letting pretty much anyone do it, which helps the influencer marketing and the collaboration and the promotion of like any case studies or nice words that other people may have said about you outside of the company. So I actually think this is a 10 out of 10 update. I think it's great. I think if someone, shouts you out saying this is, an awesome thing you're doing, you can then actually promote that. And I think LinkedIn have also introduced a feature, if you are doing it and it's a paid sponsorship, they can say this is a paid thing that you do together. But I think this works really well for generated content by the people who are generally using your products, and then you can amplify it to your clearly defined ICP within your LinkedIn ads account. So 10 out of 10. Next one is the update of the conversion API. So this is really exciting and also not that exciting, both in the same one. I think it's exciting because you can now start pulling data from your CRM like HubSpot or Salesforce and start bringing that pipeline and closed value and whether the lead has been qualified or not back into LinkedIn. The negatives are you only get 3 months to do that. Before then, it disregards the data and it doesn't actually match up because of privacy laws. The other thing is, a lot of the time it's only being attributed to one campaign, which is a last touch campaign, which means you can have the same issues with traditional tracking, cookie-based tracking with third-party tracking, because ultimately it's going to be the last campaign and you have that 3-month guideline. So I think it's worth doing and getting those qualified leads in that intermediary section for pipeline, because it's not high intent and because a lot of people using LinkedIn are for high average order value products. It's really great and good functionality worth being there. But I wouldn't sort of worry too much about trying to get all your pipeline revenues. That's going to be where your CRM really plays a big part in looking at the longer and wider picture. If you have like HubSpot, you can go into HubSpot. I recently created a video about how you can actually go and connect it from HubSpot and the events in there and pushing it straight in there. Or you can use the likes of Zapier, for example. And again, I kind of roughly go through that in the video, which again, I'll link below, or it's just in the LinkedIn channel. I'll actually link to the whole LinkedIn playlist, which you can go through and select whether it's tracking, whether it's connected TV, whether it's thought leadership ads, whatever it may be, to sort of show you how it's all done, because we cover all of it on there. Next one, which I think is a really great update, which is something I discussed on either last week's video or the week before, I can't quite remember now, is the new LinkedIn ads data-driven model, which is very similar to the conversion API and it uses the same connection. But rather than just taking last touch point, it takes every touch and it goes through and it says, okay, these companies have seen impressions of this ad. We can see in LinkedIn that they've become a lead. And then we can see, how many people have engaged, how many come leads, how many have closed. And it kind of takes you through that full pipeline. It kind of categorizes which ones they think have been leads, for example, which I won't go too much into today. So there's a few quirks, but I think it's a really nice way of LinkedIn thinking about the data-driven model, trying to create their own solution to try and say this is the wider impact LinkedIn is actually having on your CRM data outside of like last touch point attribution, which is the connected TV, the C API or conversion API we just spoke about, and from a last touch point perspective. So from LinkedIn on this one, I think 8 out of 10 again, really nice and sort of like, I guess, forward thinking from their side and trying to really work out the pain points behind the businesses and the people who are using LinkedIn ads. The next one is one that I don't necessarily care about too much, which is what they sunsetted, lookalike audiences. For those of you who don't know, lookalike audiences are they kind of came around from and originated from Facebook, where you have like your pixel for your remarketing audience or people have bought, and it says go and find like a 1% lookalike audience of people who are similar. Facebook are very good at that. Don't know how they're very good at it, but they're very good at it. LinkedIn tried to do the same thing. Turns out it wasn't as powerful and didn't get anywhere near as good results. A lot of the time, not great alliance. They've sunsetted those and changed it to predictive analytics, which was like people who would be just as likely apparently to complete the same goal as people who already complete the same goal. But we haven't used them. Probably not going to test them until there's sort of like more use cases appearing about when they've worked well. Maybe we'll test them, but there's plenty of other things we want to test and sort of like roll out before then. So I'd put question mark out of 10. Don't really know. Going on to the next one, we have buyer group targeting. Now, buyer group targeting is something that I don't have access to in any of my accounts. I saw someone on LinkedIn post about it. Pretty much we can target a whole buyer group in a certain industry versus just individual users and job titles. I probably won't use that as soon as it come out until we work out exactly who it's been shown in front of you and who they determine is in that buying group, for example. I think when you give our platforms more control, they go broader and they spin looser and faster. So I think when everything's come out, which is a bit black boxy, it's always worth the approach with caution. And if you are going to use it alongside other campaigns for benchmarks and also for that sort of like manual organic learning versus like actually using it from like, your only campaign and have no idea what's going on. And finally, AI campaigns. I'm not actually going to go into that too much because I create a whole video around AI campaigns, which I'm going to link above at the top. I want you to go onto that video and I want you to tell me whether you think, AI campaigns, which actually choose your audience, make your creative and set everything up for you from start to finish, is going to be worth it for LinkedIn ads. And in this video, I go through absolutely everything you need to know and run through for the first time me setting up a AI LinkedIn ads campaign. So I hope you found that video useful. If you want to go watch the AI video, go up there, or I'll whack it in the comments depending where you're watching this. Hope you found that useful, guys. There's actually a few more updates we haven't gone on to, and there's going to be plenty more coming out in 2025, which we'll cover. But any questions, whack them in the comments below, and look forward to speaking to you guys very, very soon.